Alright, getting going a little late today. Had some government work from Helen and I had to take care of this morning to get a project going down there that we were working on and didn't have the tools to fix down there. And I had to go help Grandpa work on his house for a minute. So anyhow, regardless, we're working on this now. I did have, for this bearing, I had a brand new felt and a brand new bearing. I thought I'd replace the ones that I honestly can't remember which the last one was I had to replace a bearing in, but it was probably the 7300. Because the one that we did in the 525 last time, that was a hot minute ago. So we're set there. I just gotta clean the rust out of this real quick, because that bearing is just supposed to slide in, and then we can start cutting flighting off and welding new stuff on. Short of a run as that is, it shouldn't be too terrible of a job. The worst part's going to be getting the old stuff cut off. Alright, I got the new flighting rolled onto the center tube. It's not welded yet. The flights are going to land in a slightly different spot than they were originally. I cut it a little long. We'll cut it to size once I get it welded in, but it's easier to take more off than it is to put it back on. So but we'll weld it down here first, and you have to leave it like they had it, you have to leave it far enough back off the end that, say you fold the auger or unfold the auger and the pins don't line up or anything, you need the flighting far enough back that when you engage the auger, the pins can free spin around until they engage. So that's why you're so far back off the tube here in the center. That being said, when I do, actually before I go welding, I should cut that one apart. We'll put it back together the way it was. They weren't lined up. Obviously, you know, the flighting's yay far apart, but they weren't 100%. There was a little bit of overlap, but let's leave it. So, we'll go ahead and get this tacked up. Don't want to weld this end solid, but want to get some good tacks on it because you got to get the flighting tightened down onto the center tube. Alright, so this is the fun part, and since we don't have any sort of auger jigs or anything like that, you gotta take it small bites. But this is how they do it in the factory when they're actually manufacturing augers. When they roll the spiral, the center diameter, whatever you want to call it, where the tube slides through, it's not really diameter because it's a screw, but is actually formed slightly oversized to make it where the tube just slides through the center. You don't gotta fight it. And then you want your side tacked that you need to in there, that you need to have in your certain spot, like that side. And then you actually hook onto the spiral and pull on it, and when you pull on it, when it starts to curl, it tightens down on the tube. When they do this in the factory, they got a big machine that they can put it in, that they can center the tube, and then they got a hydraulic cylinder and special stuff to get a hold of it, and they can actually do all this in one shot. But we don't have all that, so it's going to take multiple shots. So this is what we got rigged up. Came to the center to pull on it so I can get a tack here, and then we'll unrig, come down, rig on the end, and do the rest of it, because with this is considered 3/16 flighting, and we just do not have, without building a jig, anything that can do all this in one pull, because that's quite a bit of material to try to stretch. But with that being said, now I can throw a tack on here, and I'm gonna weld both sides. They only had one side welded from the factory, but so anyhow, and you only want to do some decent tacks that aren't gonna break, because if something's wrong and you got to cut it back apart to do something, you don't want to be grinding off 3 inches of weld in every spot. Now you can pop the straps and re-hook, and on this end one I should be able to get away with just doing one, because this section's gonna should move easier. bitch. Alright, there is the first one done. The one thing I still... Well, hold on, let me get some stuff out of the way and then we'll check that. Okay, the last thing we gotta do is check and see how far off a straight we are. And we're up down that side a little bit. These 3 flights here, here, and here aren't bad, and we're up right there just a wee bit. But it looks like most of it is at that second flight. So should be able to tweak that out a little bit. I mean, it's never going to be perfect. It probably was hardly perfect from the factory, because I'm not going to say I doubt they took the time to straighten it, but anyway. Alright, we're going to call that one good. I think it seems like, because like now it's touching on everywhere except like right here. I'm wondering if this didn't stretch quite the same as the rest of it, and that's why. But it's got to be straight enough for what it is. So we're going to call that one good. I'm going to go ahead and get that guy done real quick. And the only thing different about that is I'll have to pull the bolts out of probably that end so I can slide the tube in and out. But other than that, this could be the same thing we just saw. So get that one done and we'll go stick them back in the combine. Alright, all the bearing stuff's ready to go. I threw some primer on that spacer washer, so hopefully it doesn't turn into a ball of rust again. It probably will, but just the thought that counts. Lighting's all on. Shaft's cleaned up. I put new bolts in the shaft stub in there, and then the alignment stub in there, because the old ones were this thing. The little alignment cone here actually came loose and fell out while I was stretching that flighting. So, well, that bolt, it was about wore in half, so that one needed replaced regardless. So load this stuff up in a truck and go get the combine back together. Right here. Here. Alright. Before the auger goes in, we can go ahead and put this bearing carrier back in. And before we do that, we are going to put some anti-sleaze here where the bearing sits, so that hopefully it won't get stuck again. Then that, and then that, and then my bolts are back here. There we go. I noticed when I was putting the video together the other day that I didn't necessarily have that thing pointing up high enough for you to actually see what I was doing. Oh, I get it all over my fingers. Something smells like garbage, and I don't know what. Shouldn't be anything in here. Oh, it's that right there. There's a little moldy pile of corn there in that clean grain elevator. Okay, now I can anti-seize the shaft before that goes in. Alright, keys back on. So the pulley can go back on. About like so. And that means reset the screw. And now all I gotta do is retension the belt. Alright, that takes care of the auger. Now I have to, before I forget, put the knife back in the chopper. Stay. Stay. It's got all the trash out of it. I wish this thing had the housing in it that lets you use the replaceable knife sections like the, I can show you later on the 8700, but I think most modern combine choppers, they just use like the same knives that are on a grain table. That way they're replaceable. I think at some point they did switch the 7300 choppers over to that style of housing, but it didn't happen until they went red. Whew. It's toasty in here. And then the last thing I gotta do that I can think of is these guys. So I'm trying to, this thing has, since I've started cutting beans with it, liked to make splits, and I don't know why. And last fall, when I ran that little bit of corn with it while we had the 8700 tore apart to do the track conversion, it was grinding a little bit of corn too, and this thing never damaged corn, ever. The entire time I ran corn with it, never. You have to work to find a cracked kernel in that hopper when this thing was running corn. The only thing that's changed is I've been running the perforated screens, and when I used to run corn with it, I just left the solid screens on it, because I actually at that point didn't know that I had the set of perforated screens for it. So I'm running under the curious assumption that maybe these augers are worn just enough that when you put the perforated screens on, it's acting like a grinder. So I'm going to swap out at least the two that cover. I'm going to leave the doors on, because with beans you want to be able to work the fines out. So I'm going to leave the doors on for the time being, but on the clean grain and the tailings I am going to swap out the screens for the solids, just to see if that changes the splits at all, or the amount of splits that I see at all. I'm hoping the unload auger helps some, because I guarantee you, as thin as that was getting down there, especially in the uptake area, I guarantee you that was doing some grinding down there. So, but like I say, this is the only thing that's changed. I mean, when I switched from beans or from corn to beans, it likes running the same slow speed sprocket that I run on corn, or ran on corn. I mean, really that's the only thing that I would have changed, was the sprocket setting initially, and then I put it back to the corn setting, corn sprocket, trying to eliminate these splits, and the perforated screens. And same thing when I switched back to corn last fall. Literally the only thing that would have been different than when I ran corn before was I didn't have the smooth screens. So that's the assumption I'm running under. So I'm going to throw those guys on real quick. All right, that's all good. So let's go ahead and pull her outside. We'll unfold that auger, run it, make sure that's all kosher, kick the machine over, and push that nasty stuff out of the auger troughs that must have molded up after I washed it the other day, because it was not like that before I washed it. of goofy when they run empty, but normally it's normally when this thing was dry, it would chatter a lot more than that. So I think we did a little bit of good anyhow. And with that, all I should have left to do is grease it and clean the cab up a little bit. And I might power wash again one more time because I see that there's still spots I missed, which is really irking me off. But yeah, that's just little stuff. So 7300, pretty much good to go. And I was thinking last night after I got done fiddling with those lights, I was thinking about how they do it on modern grain tables. And I was wondering if the nifty thing to do would be to put another switch in the dash and run a wire harness down the feeder house and actually put headlights. I don't think you would be able to, as I say, it seems like in modern, I'd almost have to run up to the deer dealer or something, see if they got a grain head sitting on the lot and get some ideas from it, but because our deer dealer's gonna be the closest one. I think on the new heads, maybe somebody can correct me on this, I think they actually put buckets in the back of the head, so you got a headlight mount that actually shines down here out. I don't think I've got enough room to do that and have it effective. I think what I'd be better off doing is getting like two 12-inch or whatever they are curved LED light bars and putting them right here on either side of the feeder house, facing kind of down and forward. That way you're actually shining light on the cutter bar, because that's the worst part. You start throwing a bunch of lights on the back of the combine, you need a set that's pointing at the bottom of the head, you need a point that's set that's pointing kind of like right out in front of the head, and then you need a set that's pointing way out, where if you just put them on the head, you got them pointing right where you need them, and that would be enough to light the cutter bar and in front of the head. And then the other thing I could do is have two of them, like what they do on the modern heads, have two of them back here pointing backwards off, or kind of out and back off the back of the head, so that you're getting light out here, and then you don't gotta do a bunch of crap to the combine to mount a bunch of different lights, and you don't, the wiring harness would be nice and clean, and mounting them would be nice and easy. The only thing, like I say, the only thing I'd have to do is throw another switch in the dash. You definitely want those on a separate circuit, because you wouldn't want those on while you're going down the road. But I'm almost wondering, like I say, I'm going to look at some heads and get some ideas, but I'm almost wondering if that would be the hot setup, is to do it that way versus throwing more lights on the combine. Because that gets light where you need it. And then you can take the ones on the combine, and those could be the ones that point out ahead of you. So that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. I just, like I say, I want to look at a newer head and get some ideas and see how they do it, and where they place their lights and where they have them look. I mean, it's only a 13-foot head that you don't have a whole lot of options, but like I say, I think if measure it out and split them even, but if I'm assuming you probably end up with one about right here and one about right here, and those curved bars, you'd have plenty of field of view with them. So I don't know if it's something I'll get around to yet this fall or not, but it's something that's floating around in the back of my head. So, and this week we will pull combine back out, hook up to this thing, get it up off the ground and check it over, see if there's any knives that need replaced. I don't think there's no broken guards, but just check everything over, make sure everything's tight, and go from there. So head shouldn't really need anything. Make sure none of the boards are rotten, make sure none of the fingers are going to fall off, and that'll be that on the grain table. So, but anyhow, I'm going to get my stuff put away, and just about time to be calling it a day, I think. Yeah, so we're gonna go to dinner tonight, and I gotta, on the way to, I'm working it out where the direction we're going to dinner is on the same direction. I gotta stop and pick up some tractor related items. Nothing exciting or bigger, and it's not like I picked up a new piece of equipment, but some manuals and whatnot that a guy turned me on to. So anyhow, I guess with that being said, that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one, which will be the 8700 again.